Okay, so let's just jump right in. If you're a developer trying to get a handle on generative AI, you've probably felt this, right? That frustration. The feeling that even after all the tutorials, all the courses, something just isn't quite clicking. You know the words, you know the concepts, but the second you open your code editor to actually build something, you hit a wall. Well, today we're going to figure out exactly why that's happening and, more importantly, how to actually fix it. And right out of the gate, we get this really powerful idea from lead data scientist Anudip Sribathina. He says, look, the problem isn't what we all think it is. It's not the crazy complex algorithms. It's not the linear algebra that's holding you back. It's something else entirely. And boom, there it is. The real culprit? A lack of intuition. We're talking about that gut feeling, that deep, almost instinctual understanding of how these AI models are actually going to behave when you start throwing code at them. So the key isn't about knowing more stuff, it's about understanding it in a totally different way. So this gets us to the heart of the matter, the real AI struggle. It's all about why most of the ways we learn about AI just don't really work for developers. There's a huge mismatch. Just think about it for a second. Almost every course or tutorial out there is fantastic at explaining the what, right? They define all the terms, they show you the architecture, they give you this solid theoretical foundation. You learn what a large language model is or what a vector database does. But here's the massive disconnect. Almost none of them teach you the how on a practical level. Like, how does changing one little parameter in your API call totally change the output? How do you even begin to debug when the model gives you some bizarre response? That's the stuff that actually matters when you've got a deadline and an open code editor staring back at you. And all of this leads to what we can call the intuition gap. It's this massive canyon between just memorizing a bunch of definitions and actually building a real internal understanding of how these systems work in the wild. Now, this is great because it just lays out the two paths so clearly. On the left, you've got the person who memorizes concepts. They can tell you, what is an embedding? No problem. But on the right, you've got the builder. They're asking, okay, but why do these embeddings even work? The memorizer knows what a RAG pipeline is. The builder knows how to reason about it, how to fix it when it breaks, how to design a better one. It's a fundamental shift from what to why and how. So how in the world do we bridge that gap? Well, the answer is a code-first approach. Instead of drowning in theory from day one, you start by getting your hands dirty. You build that crucial intuition through direct hands-on practice. And his whole approach, it follows this really clear, logical path. First, you start with just enough theory to be dangerous, right? Minimal stuff. Then you immediately jump into live, practical examples. You get to see how these abstract ideas turn from pseudocode into real working Python. And finally, you stitch it all together into an actual working application. You're not just learning about the Lego bricks, you're learning how to build the castle. Okay, so let's say you do this. You adopt this new way of learning. What's the real payoff here? We're talking about moving beyond just knowing things to having concrete, tangible skills that you can actually use on your next project. And this is the result. You're not just blindly calling an API anymore. You're using it with confidence because you can anticipate how the LLM is going to respond. You stop copy-pasting RAG pipelines from tutorials, and you start actually reasoning about them, and you can debug them when things go wrong. You finally get the why behind embeddings, which gives you the power to build real end-to-end applications completely from scratch. This quote just nails it. It really captures the entire transformation. It's the difference between being a spectator and actually being a player in the game. Look, anyone can read a book and say they know a topic, but to be able to build with it, and even more importantly, to be able to stand by your work and explain the design choices you made, well, that is a completely different level of mastery. So when you boil it all down, what this really comes to is adopting a brand new mindset. It's about learning to think in generative AI terms, to develop a mental model that goes way beyond just surface-level definitions. And this is the goal, right? This is the identity you want to aim for, the GenAI builder. This is not just someone who uses AI tools. This is a developer who genuinely gets it, who understands the mechanics under the hood, and who can use these incredibly powerful technologies with real confidence and creativity. And that leaves us with this one final question, which is really what this whole thing has been about. After seeing the difference, which path are you on? Are you content just knowing the concepts, being a knower? Or are you ready to develop that deep intuition you need to truly build the future? The choice, really, is yours.